Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, The 3D Explorer. My name is Sally, and in today's video I'm going to talk about 5 things that I learned during my very first multicolor overnight 3D print. So stick around. The very first thing that I learned about doing an overnight print is that anxiety is real. I think a lot of us, especially when we begin our journey, are hesitant about a lot of things that we don't know anything about. And one of those is leaving the printer on working overnight. There's always some type of anxiety or fear. What happens if something goes wrong with the printer? What happens if filament gets backed up? If there's a tangle, if you have adhesion issues, if all of a sudden you wake up to a spaghetti disaster, what if things just go wrong? So anxiety is actually very natural when it is the first time that we try something new. In order to reduce this, I will suggest for you to start your print early so that you can monitor the very first layers, especially if you have concerns about adhesion. And then, just continue to do things throughout the day. That way your anxiety might not be as bad. The next thing that I learned is that when doing multicolor printing, it creates a lot of poop. And when I say a lot of poop, I mean a lot of poop. So, in order to avoid having a problem like this, you want to make sure that you start your long prints with an empty chute. And make sure that you monitor that chute throughout the day. Make sure that you empty it, constantly, and then that way you avoid it filling it up. Sometimes you're going to have different types of poop, right? So you definitely want it to look natural, nice, stringy. I will call this healthy poop. The problem comes when we have not so healthy poop. What does that look like? Give me one sec. Like this. It looks like your printer could use some fiber, right? These are the ones that can actually cause issues to where the actual chute is not capturing all the waste inside of the printer. And it starts to build up and build up and build up, and it can actually get stuck to the nozzle and then create a whole disaster inside of the printer. You want to avoid that. This, bad poop. This, healthy poop. So in order to avoid having unhealthy poop, please make sure that you start with a very clean chute and you try to keep it as empty as possible. The third thing that I learned when doing multicolor printing overnight is that you have to be aware of filament in regards to 2 things. Thing number 1 is you have to make sure that you have enough filament for the print so that it doesn't run out overnight when you are not attending it. Now, the AMS obviously has the capabilities to change to another spool in the event that one empties if you program it to do so. However, if you're doing, like in my case, a 4 different color print, it won't be able to do that. So you want to make sure that you calculate when you slice correctly so that you avoid that issue overnight. Thing number 2 has to deal with the possibility of tangles. And that actually happened to me while I was doing the overnight print. One of the rolls got tangled really bad, and so it created an error that said that the filament couldn't be fed into the extruder. So what I did was I took all the rolls out. I opened the AMS to make sure that none of the tubes were clogged. Actually, I couldn't find any piece of filament stuck anywhere. So what I ended up doing was just put everything back together, plugged it back in, and when I did that, the error went away and I was able to resume the print without any issues. So if you encounter something similar, please make sure that you unplug the AMS and check all of the tubing. If you don't find anything, make sure that you check within the AMS because you could have like a small piece of filament stuck. You might find something. Sometimes you might not find anything, which was my case. So I actually ended up just putting everything back together, plug it in, and resume the print, and everything was fine. The 4th thing that I learned is that things can and will eventually go wrong. In my particular case, when I started my print, I had adhesion issues with the first layers. So what I had to do was cancel the print and start all over again. And then, like I mentioned, while I was printing, there was a tangle in one of the spools. And so I had to troubleshoot because I had never done that before, right? So eventually, and unfortunately, you're going to encounter some issues while you're printing. And so the good thing here is that every challenge is actually a learning experience. So whatever issues that you encounter while you have your long prints going is going to be just an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about your 3D printer. Bamboo Labs, their printers are pretty reliable, so I wouldn't really expect too much tinkering on your end. But when the time comes, you're definitely going to have to troubleshoot, especially if it is things that have to deal with maintenance, like bells or black extruder or gears, things of that nature. It is just part of the process. This 3D printing journey is a learning experience all throughout. From being a beginner and even experts, they have to deal with some form of maintenance, some form of troubleshooting, and it is just normal. So when something eventually goes wrong with your long prints or regular prints, just make sure that you take it as a learning experience and learn as much as you can. And the last thing that I learned is that you must monitor your print. Now, I'm not saying sit in front of your printer and watch it all throughout the print. That would be crazy. What I'm trying to say is that whenever you get a chance, just check on your phone how the print is going. Every now and then, come and take a look at the poop chute, make sure that it's not overflowing. If you are at home while your print is going, just make sure that you stop by regularly and take a look. Some of my prints have actually had a little bit of poop within the printer, like on the bed. And I have had to pause before to go and pick them out in order to avoid like any major disaster. So little things like that that may not be perhaps on your radar while you print can actually happen. So the best thing to do is to just monitor your print throughout the day. Overnight, obviously, while you're sleeping is a little bit of a challenge. You wouldn't be able to do that, so you hope for the best. But every chance that you can, just make sure that you do a quick check to see how your print is going, and that way you can avoid a lot of potential disasters. And that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you find the content useful, please make sure that you like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments below, what are some of the things that you learned during your very first overnight long print? Until next time, keep on exploring.